The whole world is going through the same experience at the same time. Living behind closed doors. Doors that won't be open just because you would like to go out. If you think I'm talking about the pandemic now, you are partly right. But this is Alexandra Lewandowska, look before you leap into the deep. We are talking inner life here, so don't expect anything more than a metaphor. We all have this do not enter zone. Things we don't want to re-experience because they are too painful. It's like you don't want to open the door because it opens up the wounds. The wounds that you've suffered because you were open, maybe too open, loving, but you met with humiliation, rejection, or indifference. So you keep that door shut. Sometimes not really because of the negative experiences, but because of lack of positive ones. So maybe you don't know what it's like to have a true friend, or you've never been in a healthy relationship, or you never felt that people really value your opinions, who you are, or what you do. Whatever that is, it might lead you to believe that some doors are open only to some people, but not to you. And you decide to live with that door shut, rather than see yourself or have other people see how you struggle with that handle, and you keep trying to open the door, you keep trying, but you keep failing. And you don't want to see yourself, you don't want to feel the weakness, and you don't want to experience that maybe, which is even worse, there's nothing really behind that door for you. At this point, a self-help guru would tell you, leave your comfort zone, go open the door. But as you know, it's easier said than done. And if you force yourself to open the door, you might end up with a false sense of achievement. It happens when you put yourself into a difficult situation, but you just go through the motions and you cut yourself from that experience emotionally. So on the inside, you are still self-isolating, but you pretend to have no problem with something. And you might say, oh, I used to be shy, but now I can talk to anybody. Maybe, but maybe you've just replaced one mask with another. And I can tell you from my own experience that it's impossible to change on your own. You need somebody else, because the damage was done in a relationship and it needs to be undone in a relationship. It's the loving presence of the other that can make you believe, touch the wound, and eventually open the door. Let's open the door to the text we'll be meditating on, John 20, verses 19 to 31. On the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together with doors locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Again Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone his sins, they are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." Now Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe it." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. The first step to open the door is to believe it's possible. If you do believe, you are blessed, because it means God is already at work in you. If you don't, you need to see Him. You need to notice the signs of love, goodness, blessings in your life. If you feel like Thomas, isolated, alienated from others, maybe envious because it feels like everybody around has experienced something and you have not, Jesus comes to you and tells you, the door you keep locked because you are afraid, that's not a problem for me. The wounds that you have, the ones that you don't even want to talk about, I have the same. You can touch them, nothing bad will happen. One of Jesus' names is Emmanuel, which means God with us. He has been through everything, He experienced everything, so He can relate to everything in your life, and He can walk through any door with you. But this time, because of His presence, because of the presence of love, you will not meet with humiliation, rejection, or indifference. This time, you will make it through. The door will open and there will be life behind the door. We don't know if Thomas experienced what he thought he needed to experience, but we know that it was the loving presence of God, the presence of living love that eventually opened him up, that opened the disciples up and sent them out of this place, that opened the door. Love opens the door. If you feel like opening your door before the end of the lockdown, see you on meditation, 10 p.m. Central European Time. Bye bye.